Kyalo.
And my name is Kelvin Mungai. I do hope you're having a wonderful start to your day today, this being the Wednesday of this week. It's a beautiful morning. Many greetings here from the mountainside. We do hope that you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for choosing us as your preferred way to start the day. Now, sticking with, well, what we have formed to be a tradition, we will be taking you through the newspapers. Judy will be taking you through the Standard. I will be taking you through the Nation, the Daily Nation. And in the main headline, it is written, Ruto, it is my turn, epic contest. In a bare-knuckle speech, moments after getting his party's nod to run for president, DP Ruto declares that it is now his time to lead, setting the stage for a titanic battle with his boss, President Kenyatta, and Azimio flag bearer Raila Odinga in August. The Deputy President William Ruto and his wife Rachel waved to UDA delegates yesterday at the Kasarani Stadium in Nairobi. That is a story that is on page 4, 5, 6, and 8, and it is one that we will be looking at. And there is an inset there that highlights the promises that the Deputy President made to the Kenyans should he be elected as the President come the August 9th elections. And they include to ensure financial independence of police and DCI. 2, to implement the Judiciary Fund for financial autonomy. 3, to improve national revenue collection to ease debt. 4, to professionalize the DCI and digitalize KRA. 5, dismantle conflict of interest abetting state capture. 6, champion peace, unity, and opportunity to prosper. And 7, allow Kenyans opportunities to hustle from the bottom up. There is also another headline there, Raila meets UK minister. We had a robust discussion on matters pertaining to security with a view to enhancing our ties moving into the future. Azimio presidential candidate Odinga said of the talks with Armed Forces Minister James Hippie. That is a story on page 13. And, well, a bit of a... I'm not sure what to say about this headline because it regards the exam, the ongoing KCSE examination. And it is one, well, the headline reads, Impersonation, Missing Keys, Day 2 of KCSE. Detectives investigating how senior officials misplaced a key for an exam container, delaying tests in 23 schools. That is a story on page 3. Well, I think there's a first for everything. I have never heard of keys missing to a container containing exam papers. Previously, it's always the container was opened before the day of the exam and certain papers were missing. But this is a first.
You get to see that story. Also on the Standard, on the front page, we have Ruto, my promise, and Deputy President William Ruto accepts to be United Democratic Alliance's presidential flag bearer in the August 9 polls and outlines his agenda for the country, promising to right the wrongs of the Jubilee administration. The endorsement sets stage for a duel with Azimio's Raila Odinga. In that story, you can find it on page 4, 5, and 6. And quickly to look at Ruto's promises yesterday, he said that on the first day, we will free DCI, KRA, EACC from state capture. We will appoint an accounting officer for DCI to be financially independent. We will professionalize and digitize the tax agency, operationalize the Judiciary Fund to give the institution financial independence, get rid of brokers and cartels in the agricultural sector. And also, we have the Raila UK officials talk of close ties. We know Raila is in the UK for a 10-day trip. That story, you can find it on page 9. And also we have IEBC plots to lock out nomination losers. And in a proposal to House Committee, the Elections Agency wants MPs to bar aspirants defeated in party primaries from vying as independent candidates. And that story, you can find it on page 8 of the Standard.
I do not know why the IEBC wants to lock out those who want to contest as independent candidates.
Well, we'll find out why.
It is a story that we'll be getting into in the details. Now, on page 4, It is my turn, Ruto declares as UDA endorses him to run for president. Mr. Mudavadi and Mr. Wetangula say they joined hands with the deputy president in a bid to save the country's economy, which has been captured by a select few, which is something that I feel forms the backbone of their campaign. Deputy President William Ruto yesterday got his party's nod to run for president, framing the August 9th general elections as a contest between retaining the old order that has ruined the nation and his transformative agenda. Addressing close to 5,000 UDA delegates, the DP dismissed President Kenyatta's second term as wasted and attacked Jubilee, the party he and President Kenyatta were re-elected on in 2017, for forgetting the original covenant, opting to oppress Kenyans through punitive economic policies. From 2017, the party backpedaled on its foundational commitment, including the founding covenant. The party rejected national inclusive issue-based transformative leadership and embraced parochial, ethnic, divisive, and retrogressive politics, he said. He also added it defaulted to tribe as the organizing variable of our politics and governance. It privatized governance and weaponized public policy and institutions. It pursued personal politics of congregation and of congregating an entitled few to express their individual wishes as community interests and translate their private consensus as national policy. He noted that in Jubilee's first term, they had set the stage for national transformation. DP Ruto blamed the March 2018 truce between President Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga for the troubles in Jubilee in the second term. Well, he says, in our second term, we witnessed accelerated regression into the tyranny, personality, cult politics, and weaponization of public offices to intimidate, harass, and persecute Kenyans. That is a story that is on page 4 and 5, and it also continues on page 6, 7, and 8. But there were different opinions on yesterday's meeting, and also social media was rife with these other opinions that Kenyans were posting about the meeting, some supporting the deputy president, and of course those allied to Honorable Raila Odinga who are against the deputy president. But there are some quotes here. The first one is from Professor Makau Mutua, who is Raila Odinga campaign spokesperson, who says, "Today, Kenyans and the world witnessed how a Ruto UDA regime will switch off the lights of democracy if, God forbid, it ever came to power. In its most important public function to date, deliberations on the coronation of Mr. Ruto as UDA presidential candidate, Mr. Ruto decided to remove the media from the venue where those deliberations were done. The opacity and secrecy of UDA is a chilling reminder to Kenyans what Mr. Ruto would do if he captures state power." Then Keyo South MP Daniel Rono says, "Excellent speech, full of truth and nothing but the truth. Kenya will never be the same again." Godfrey Osodsi, ANC nominated MP, says he displayed emotions and anger that is not presidential. Ruto has no moral authority to question the government that he is serving on matters corruption, rule of law, and governance. Someone needs to remind him that Kenyans are not fools. Then Millicent Omanga, Jubilee nominated senator, said, "We have witnessed history being made at Kasarani, the 5th president." There are other opinions that we do not have the time to get into, but do grab a copy of the Daily Nation, read the entire story, read the opinions, and I'm sure you can find more opinions on social media on how divided the country is about yesterday's meeting.
Okay. And on that scheme to block primary losers from contesting as independent, MPs are considering a fresh proposal to block losers in party primaries from running as independent candidates. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission argues that aspirants who are defeated in nominations should be barred from resigning from their parties, just the same way party hopping has been outlawed. And also, it said that parties have in the past held chaotic nominations, leaving many aspirants with no option but to seek tickets from other outfits or contests as independent candidates. This led to the registration of briefcase political parties that sold nomination certificates on a first-come, first-served basis. Yes.
Well, every time that there is a political gathering of this kind, the nature that we've been served to with the Azimio and the UDA, the Kenya Kwanza meeting that happened yesterday. There is always something that is entertaining about those meetings, be it our politicians, some of the things that they say, or what their supporters react to what they are saying. Now, yesterday, there was quite a bit happening at the meeting, and the Nation titles that Song, Dance and Gavels at UDA Meeting. Well, from the electrifying performance of popular Gengeton musician X-Ray to the gyrating moves of nominated Senator Millicent Omanga, the United Democratic Alliance National Delegates Conference at Kasarani yesterday lived up to its billing. Did you see Millicent dancing? Ah, well... Ms. Omanga, a vocal city politician endowed with a strong sense of humor and great looks from head to toe, left many delegates with a wondering eye gasping for air when she took to the stage more than once to showcase her riveting dancing skills. Other than that, there was also the Deputy President's speech. You know, he gave a speech, and in it, he did mention his wife quite a number of times. The Nation says, as they say, behind every successful man there is a woman. Do you agree with that?
It's true.
I thought you would be opposed to it.
No.
The DP heaped praise on his wife, Miss Rachel Ruto, whom he termed the love of my life. He also excused his two sons who were away due to unavoidable circumstances. Starehe MP Charles Njagua, who is also a popular musician, performed his hit song Kigeugeu to ridicule their opponents in the upcoming August elections. This was in reference to the alleged betrayal of the DP by President Kenyatta and the ruling Jubilee Party.
Well, and on page 9 of the Standard, Raila meets UK officials to popularize candidature, and ODM leader Raila Odinga yesterday held talks with United Kingdom's Minister of Armed Forces James Heapy. On his social media handles, Raila said the two discussed defense and security. And I quote, "The UK has been one of Kenya's most loyal and dependable defense and security partners. We had a robust discussion on enhancing our ties moving into the future," end of quote, Mr. Odinga posted. The former Prime Minister was in the company of Kenya's High Commissioner to the UK, Manoa Esipisu. The Azimio la Umoja Movement presidential flag bearer was yesterday scheduled to meet Theo Clark, the UK Prime Minister's trade envoy to Kenya. Mr. Odinga is on a 5-day tour to the UK, days after Deputy President William Ruto also toured the nation. It seems everyone is going abroad to popularize their bid.
Well, there was a report rather, in the papers last week, where it says that these leaders attending these meetings is crucial because they have to portray to the Western nations, to the Western world, that they are capable of sustaining the ties that there are between Kenya and the Western, with Kenya being or depending heavily on the Western world for development. Although I'm not so sure how that will play out in the future, because China is coming into the game, and it's coming in, well, with a storm. So will those ties be able to hold? Will the interests be able to, you know, be sustained? Or will Asia take over? We wait and see. Well, on page 8, Ruto's journey to front-runner status in presidential race. There is a bit of a highlight there on the journey that the deputy president has taken to getting to the point where he will run for president come the August 9th general elections. It states in 1992 he was appointed Secretary of the Youth for KANU. In 1997 he trounced KANU's stalwart Reuben Chesire to become Eldoret North MP. In 2007 he took third position in his nominated bid to fly ODM's presidential flag. In 2013 he led his URP into forming Jubilee coalition with Uhuru's TNA, eventually becoming deputy president. In 2017 he jointly re-elected with Uhuru, but they soon fell out. In 2022 endorsed to bear UDA's presidential standard at the August 9th ballot. I think if you look at the story of most of these leaders, they bring out a sense of, you know, good things take time. I mean, where they have come from, they have had to persevere to get to where they are, and, you know, be in a position where they can finally have a sense of fulfillment. Because I think from the very beginning, the deputy president has had his eye on the presidency, but he noticed that it is not it's not something that he could do without the experience of being an MP or Secretary of the Youth. So it has taken him time to go up the ladder and get to where he is now. But as of whether he climbs to the very top of the ladder, that is being the president, or if he falls to become the opposition, is something that is left to you and I, our viewers, all of us, to decide what position each one of these leaders will occupy come the August 9th general elections.
And I heard him say that he had waited for that moment since the time he was in campus.
Well, good things do take time.
They do take time.
And I do hope that Tracy, you know, she doesn't just give up on her aspirations to become the first female, to become a female president of the Republic, because despite her age and where she is now, there is where she can get started. There are those who can mentor her along the way, up to a point where she becomes a, you know, a political force, someone who is able to draw people to herself. And in coming years, maybe we could be looking at her being a president.
True.
And maybe her story will be highlighted in this way. You know, in 2021, in 2022, she challenged the UDA presidential, preferred presidential candidate for the presidency position.
And that leaves the question, do you think those the criteria for becoming a president, you know, those, what do we call them? Vikwazo. Those things that you have to how do I put
overcome
it? Yes, for you to become a presidential aspirant or an MP, I don't know, you have to have a degree, you have to have this age limit. Do you think in future that it should be looked into and maybe scrapped?
Well, maybe not necessarily the age limit, because I think being in a position where you are leading the country, I mean, being the one in charge of the interests of over 45 million people, you have to have a certain amount of maturity and experience in leadership. You know, it's not a position that can just be given to anyone who is interested in it. It's a position that should be considered with a lot of weight.
Would you run for presidency at the moment?
No. I am not even ready to be, you know, a leader in a constituency, leave alone an entire country.
Okay.
But maybe in future I will.
Okay, be what party to hold NDC and choose coalition on Saturday, and the National Vision Party will hold its National Delegates Conference in Nairobi this weekend. The party, founded by former Cabinet Minister Nicholas B. Watts, who is deceased, is seeking to field candidates for several elective positions countrywide. NVP Chairperson Mr. Anthony Chelimo said the conference will be at Nyayo National Stadium Gymnasium on Saturday. And it is during the NDC that the party will also declare its stand on the political coalition of choice, and you can find that story on page 8 of the Standard. It seems we'll have many NDCs in the coming days.
Yes, there are quite a few. I mean, we are almost in the official electioneering period as determined by the IEBC. And as such, people are looking for, you know, grounds in which they will be able to go to the ground and talk to their supporters about the positions that they are running for. Now, let me ask you this. How did you feel when Mutahi Kagwe finally announced that you will not have to wear a mask in public anymore?
Okay, it was a relief, but still people need to be careful out there. I understand China, they have a lockdown. Again.
Well, it's not be done with your masks just yet, because now the ministry says you'll still need to wear masks indoors. You are still required to wear a mask while using public transport like trains, buses, matatus, and airplanes, the Ministry of Health has said. The government also advises the use of masks while attending indoor functions. Last week, the Ministry of Health announced the relaxation of COVID-19 containment measures, citing lower case and positivity rates in recent months. It also permitted people to stop wearing masks, but only in open public places. Then, still on the story of COVID, there's a study that claims more Kenyans died from COVID-19 than officially reported. More Kenyans may have died from COVID-19 than what the official health ministry records show, a new study has found. Published in the journal Lancet, the study shows that Kenya tops the list of East African countries with unreported COVID-19 deaths. About 181 in every 100,000 COVID-19 deaths in Kenya were unaccounted for, the study states, while the ministry only reported 5.7 in every 100,000 deaths. The study shows that about 32% of fatalities were unrecorded. That is a big difference. I mean, 181 in every 100,000 versus the reported 5.7 in every 100,000 deaths. That is quite a big difference. Margin. It's a big margin. It is a big margin. And well, I do hope that we don't get another new wave of COVID, and that the virus in China is able to be contained. Because I think the first wave of COVID caught us off guard because there were no containment measures. It was something new to the entire world. And there was also a lot of, what's the name?
Theories.
Yes, theories against it. People had a lot of speculation about the virus. There was a lot of rumors going around about it, a lot of speculation. So this time round, I hope we are able to handle it in a different way that does not affect the entire world once again.
We hope the pandemic comes to an end. We really pray so.
Yes.
And now, Kelvin, it's good news for people because you don't have to give that extra shilling to anyone, especially when you're being recruited to be a police. There has been cases of corruption where you have to give out a certain amount of money for you to be recruited. Well, on page 8 of the Standard, you don't have to know someone to be police, youth have been told. And the National Police Service Commission has said the forthcoming recruitment will be based on merit. While on a sensitization tour in Homa Bay County, the Commission's Vice Chairman, Ms. Alice Otwala, and the local county Commissioner Moses Leland also called on residents to beware of swindlers, claiming they can help get such jobs. And those hoping to be recruited should meet all the requirements, and the notions that jobs are bought should stop. I think that's good news.
That is good news. But then the implementation of such is, well, something that I hope is done a lot. Because if that has been happening, then a lot of young people have been locked out of the job industry for lack of, sufficient funds. And on page 16, we look at the cartoon on the Daily Nation. So there is a carpet, the Azimio la Umoja inawezekana. It's blue and it's written that. Then there are balloons with the golden R emblem on them. And 3 people. There is one in a watermelon shirt and a watermelon socks. And he's saying, signed, who, when, where? Yeah, he's looking visibly confused. I think it is alluring to one of the leaders who said that he does not know what he signed during the Azimio delegates conference. There is always a certain way to, a certain way that people depict our politicians. And this is one of the interesting ones. We find satire in everything. That is something that defines Kenyans. There is always something funny to be drawn out of every situation.
And I think that's what makes Kenya interesting.
Yes.
It's never a dull day in Kenya. And on page 10 of the Standard, KEMSA is holding on to 1.5 billion dead stock, and Kenya Medical Supplies Authority is staring at a 1.5 billion Kenyan shillings loss because of dead stock. The authority yesterday told MPs that some of the COVID-19 equipment in its store cannot be sold since some of the stock had either expired or was not sellable. KEMSA acting CEO John Kabuchi revealed that expired stocks are estimated at 171.9 million, while another set of stock worth 120.6 million were not sellable. Wow. I mean,
and I saw that the entire loss that KEMSA looks to make is about 1.5 billion shillings.
Yes.
Which is a lot of money.
Wow.
Well, on the back page of the Daily Nation, anxiety as 5 state farms flagged for excess workers. A moratorium placed on hiring by head of public service in 2017 was lifted in February. 5 state corporations are marked for major restructuring to shed excess workforce and curb wastage of resources. An audit by the Public Service Commission revealed that the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, Agriculture and Food Authority, that is KEMSA and AFA, Utalii College, Egerton University, Rongo University topped the list of state institutions with excess staffing. The 5 institutions have a combined excess workforce of, get this, 1,726, with KEMSA having the highest at 536 employees, Utalii College with 393, AFA with 327, Egerton University with 210, and Rongo University with 131. The institutions with staff over establishment to review and align them to the authorized staff establishment, the PSC said, pointing to a looming shakeup in the institution's workforce. That is a story on the back page of the Daily Nation. There's a bit of an inset. 1,997, that is the total number of excess employees in 15 public institutions. 127,063, that is the total vacancies in 261 public institutions, according to a PSC audit report.
And well, CS Magoha says, I take pride in CBC success and credible exams. And you can find that story on page 14 of the Standard. And after 3 years at the Ministry of Education, CS Professor George Magoha believes that implementation of the CBC and curbing of cheating in examinations will define his legacy. Professor Magoha, who is overseeing the last national examinations under President Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure, said the introduction of container system to safeguard test papers has sealed cheating loopholes. And it goes on to say that in the system introduced by the then Education CS Fred Matiang'i, now Interior CS, school principals pick and return test materials at the containers, which are under 24-hour security. Kelvin. Do you think it's true?
Well,
about the CBC success? There has been numerous complaints about it. It's either the government was too quick to implement it, or it was totally not ready for it.
Well, the thing with government policy implementation is it may take 5 years even. And there are still those who will feel like it did not take long enough, like it was not considered well enough, like there wasn't enough groundwork to implement it. But I always say you had better get it off the ground, get started, and then learn lessons while you're doing that. And then, you know, go improving along the way. Or at least that is what I apply to my life. And it has worked for me so far.
Okay.
Chelsea fans, are you out there? The Chelsea manager Thomas Tuchel, there's a quote there by him as he says, as long as we have shots, as long as we are alive, as long as we are a team and we arrive with our players, we will be competitive. Tuchel says no excuse from Chelsea despite sanctions. Thomas Tuchel says Chelsea will not make excuses despite severe restrictions placed on the club as a result of UK sanctions targeting Russian owner Roman Abramovich. The Premier League club are operating under a special license after the British government last week froze the assets of Abramovich as part of a set of punitive measures following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The license is designed to prevent Chelsea, and by extension billionaire Abramovich, described by the government as part of Russia President Vladimir Putin's inner circle, from generating new revenue. Well, it's funny how such a conflict can affect so many industries and so many countries. I mean, even those who are on the other side of the globe, from the two countries where there is a conflict, there is still that impact. So I wonder how it was during the world wars, the first one and the second one, that touch on almost every single part of the world.
I think it affects everything, the international relations, everything. It basically affects everything.
And it will be worse this time around because of the advent of social media and technology. I mean, from where we are in touch with what is happening in Ukraine, as almost as it happens, because there are certain social media pages that are dedicated, that have been set up and are dedicated to showing live footage of Ukraine, you know, the invasion, the conflict that is in the country, and they're showing it live. And there are also some that are quite disturbing, but they do post the footage anyway, and some of them still have a comical side to them.
And right now I think it's all about superpowers trying to show their might and power. There's no superpower that doesn't want to feel better than the other. And they even claims that maybe there are biological weapons being manufactured in Ukraine. It's a whole mess.
Well, biological weapons are a mess. I mean, if they get to a point where it's civilians being targeted either by biological weapons, nuclear or such, we have gotten to a dangerous point, because once that is deployed, then we see people rushing in to apparently save the civilians, and that sort of tends to heighten the conflict.
And I mean, we're not even through with COVID-19, and then you hear stories of other biological weapons. It's really sad. And as we wrap up, we have a cartoon on the page 16 of the Standard. I find this interesting. There are two boda guys standing on one side, and another person with a wheelbarrow written Uda. And one person with a motorbike says, "With all due respect, how do you expect us to make a transition from here to there?"
Well,
Ruto has been he's been receiving criticism due to the wheelbarrow notion, that he's distributing wheelbarrows and all that. People were criticizing him. Why give people wheelbarrows? Why can't you give them this?
Yeah, but the wheelbarrow is a sign of labor in the market, so maybe that is what he refers to. And that brings us to the end of the newspaper review. Do stay tuned, because after this short break, I will be coming in with my guest on Hotspot, and we will be getting to look at and discuss what is happening in the political arena. I think the bulk of our conversation today will be focused on yesterday's UDA NDC. We get to hear what they have to say about that meeting and what they think is the best way forward. Do stay tuned.